Yo everybody, what's going on? This is Keegan from Kman Reviews bringing you the next episode of Review Recall. This will cover a pretty hefty chunk of the albums that dropped in November, but for the first time this series, I'm not doing it alone. I am joined by YouTube friend and all-around amazing person, Dante's Analysis. Dante, why don't you say hello?
Hello everyone, my name is Dante's Analysis. I do music reviews and also movie reviews, and also I just want to give a special shout out to Kman Keegan for having me be on this channel and also doing this collab. I thank you so much for reaching out to me and doing this collab, man, because it really does mean a lot to me. I know that I haven't really been on this platform that long, but thank you so much for giving me this open invitation, and I'm really excited for this collab because I have a lot to say about some of these projects I have lined up to review.
Alright, you heard the man. We got a lot of stuff on the docket today. Let's dive right in. I went into this album expecting to be kind of meh on it. IDLES haven't really done too much for me, and I was not crazy about their last album, Super Mono, at all. So after dealing with Crawler, I do like this one more. I like the experimentation here, whereas Super Mono felt very straight and narrow, sonically at least. Plus, I found singer Joe Talbot's vocals to be much more enjoyable on this one. But yeah, definitely a surprise for me. Still likely won't see a year-end list spot, but I'm just happy I found something from this band to enjoy. It's decent. I don't really hate it at all. It's pretty consistent, and Megan remains still as sharp as ever, even on this freestyle dump, B-side collection, whatever it is you want to call it. But I just kind of feel like Megan is turning into what DaBaby did, where everyone loved his high-octane, bouncy, energetic delivery. But eventually, people just got tired of it and called him a one-trick pony. I don't think Megan's in too much risk of falling into that, though. I think it's still captivating, aggressive, and punchy enough to still be entertaining. But I don't know, it seems like a bit of a wet your whistle project while the sophomore one is in the works, so it's still good.
Trevor Daniels' EP, That Was Then. I'll have to say this album, or EP as I should say, was very interesting. I don't really know much about Trevor Daniel. I know that he does pop mixed with some EDM type music, and from judging by the music I listen to, it sounds very experimental, but his voice does fit very well with that type of production that he does. And yeah, the listening was pretty interesting. He definitely has his own lane going for him, and the music that he does is pretty good. And I know it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I definitely would recommend you giving Trevor Daniel a shot, because he's actually a very talented individual, and you'll definitely miss out on great music.
So I'll be honest, the war on drugs never really did too much for me. I checked out A Deeper Understanding from 2017, and that did not work for me at all. Did not understand the hype behind it, haven't even returned to it since, so I didn't have the highest expectations going into this newest record of theirs. But I'm not sure if my taste has grown a bit, or maybe I'm just more adjusted to this kind of music, but this was pretty damn good. I liked a lot of the nostalgic melodies, it all feels very organic and hearty. Maybe this band is finally starting to click with me. You know what? Maybe I do, because I don't remember a lick of this. Pretty decent Sting album here. I do think it gets a little bit dry on its final leg, especially on the deluxe version with the bonus tracks, but it's definitely still a solid album.
Oh, I'm sorry guys. This album got me in my feels. Even though I've never been in a situation as Summer Walker has, this situation got me feeling some type of way, because Summer Walker was just venting and just talking about how she was in a crappy relationship with London on the track, the producer, and she had to go through pregnancy by herself, and just venting all of her sadness and frustrations on this project. And yo, I'll have to say this is definitely one of Summer Walker's top-notch R&B albums. And there's also guest appearances by Cardi B and Ciara. And yeah, man, I would definitely recommend you guys checking out this album. You You won't regret it.
Hey everyone, just here to give some brief thoughts on the Summer Walker album. I definitely think it's alright. It's not the worst thing in the world. I think Dante did a really good job of explaining the emotional through line throughout it. But I just don't think Summer Walker has the most memorable style for a long track list. I think if this was shortened a little bit, this could have been really great. But as it stands, I think it's just okay. Very nice 4-track EP here. Lovely vocals, rich melodies soaked in a palpable dreariness, as vocalist Elizabeth Powell's yearning cadence really sets a nice mood. If you're looking for a serene and melancholic listen, check this out. I dip my toes in the world of Sematary's music every now and then, and more often than not, I like what I hear, especially in terms of just a single track. Getting into this full album here, though, it's good, but I can't help but feel like this was just the same track played 10 times in a row. Admittedly, it's a good style, there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but for the lack of a better word, it just got boring for me.
I was a little nervous about this project. Let me explain. I know when it comes to label compilation albums, it's a sign where a label is showcasing what the artists have to do on this project. And I know that when it comes to compilation albums, I know some of them get a bad rap because it's either too cluttered or too simple or too congested or very repetitive, but not this project. This project is actually very spread out. NBA Youngboy, he's more of the back guy. He's not on every single song. He's on some songs, but more of his artists are in the forefront leading this compilation album. And I like that very much because it shows the leadership quality of NBA Youngboy and showing that he's stepping back and letting his artists take over. And yeah, I like that very much.
It's another good Brandi Carlile album. I wouldn't say it's incredible, but it's still quite good. I've been hearing a lot of people say that Amine has been kind of going downhill. I personally disagree. I've always liked his style. Of course, I'll still be much more fond of Good For You or the 1.5 mixtape before Limbo came out, but I don't think this one should be overlooked at all. A lot of fun instrumentation, colorful, vivacious beats, and quirky little extras that still manage to keep the listener on their toes. I like this quite a lot. As much as I wanted to come out and say this was just another modern country album and that it was boring and bad, I never had those feelings with Jason Aldean. He came through pretty strong on this one, and apparently this is meant to be the first half of a double album concept, so consider me excited.
Wow. Woo! We definitely have another rising female contender because, whoo, Beanz, this album, Tables Turn, she spits straight heat on this project. Oh my gosh, like when I've heard of Beanz before because she also participated in the Netflix hip-hop show called Rhythm and Flow, and that's how people started to recognize her talents. And from then on, she's just been just grinding, just putting out songs after songs after songs. Also, she does like mini freestyles in random places, and she posts that on her YouTube. And I'll definitely have to say that she's definitely a rising female lyricist. She's definitely up there. The production, the writing, the flows are just insane. And yeah, man, I definitely recommend checking out this project.
I thought this was good. I know no one else is really going to say that for numerous reasons, but honestly, I just enjoyed this. Even after 40 years, ABBA still manages to project that they have their own style, their own identity. It is certainly still an ABBA album, which is really impressive after such a lengthy hiatus. I've just never been crazy enamored with ABBA, so I can't hold this in extremely high regards, but it's a very competent album, and I'm just happy they managed to pull it off.
I have to say, Dijon's Absolutely album, it was actually pretty interesting. It sounds like it was very experimental. I don't know much about Dijon. I just know he's an artist from Los Angeles, California, and he does more of like R&B slash soul type music. But when I heard this project definitely had like some smooth like house vibe, soul, like with some like instruments playing in the background. So you could definitely get your like cafe mood on to this project. And yeah, that's really all I have to say about this project. This project is if you're really into cafe house music, then this is the go-to album.
So I discovered JR thanks to Black Chidori, a name that most of you should be familiar with if you've been on this channel for any amount of time. And not at all to my surprise, this EP of his is pretty great. Always a sucker for this kind of lyrical onslaught style over luscious, rich beats. Great listen. I know 100% this album was meant to be a grower. The series isn't about growers, however, this is about first impressions, and my first impression of this album is that it's pretty boring and uninteresting. Nice lyrical topics though, but just not engaging enough even for only half an hour.
Wow, I'm actually thoroughly impressed with An Evening with Silk Sonic, man. I will have to say this might be a very bold statement, but this album is a masterpiece from beginning to end. Like, the the harmonization and vocals of Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak mesh very well in this project. You have like some jazz feel, some smooth R&B feel, like got that old school R&B feel to it, and it just meshes very perfectly. It just brings it back to the 80s and 90s of how R&B was. And yeah, man, I'm actually so happy that both of them took their time on this project because it was definitely worth the wait. This album is definitely top notch. Contender of album of the year.
Just popping in yet again to say some brief words on the Silk Sonic album. I think Dante absolutely nailed it. I think this album is a goddamn masterpiece. Expect this on my year-end list. Yeah, it still does. Never been crazy about James Arthur, and this album didn't do too much to sway my opinion on him. He certainly has good vocal ability demonstrated on this album in spades. I especially like Emily, Medicine, and Avalanche, but I just could not care less about these mediocre pop rap songs, and the overall narrative is pretty puzzling, and it's just not something I'm all that eager to revisit.
You know, I really don't want to go crazy on this project because I know Key Glock is going through a lot right now with the passing of his cousin Young Dolph. He was shot and killed in Memphis, and yeah, I don't want to go too crazy on him, but I have to say this, the Yellow Tape 2 project, there were some bangers on there, but I just felt like the album was a little too lengthy, 20 tracks. There were just some songs that just wasn't it for me. Again, there were some bangers on here, don't get it misconstrued, but I just felt like as a cohesive project, it just didn't live up to the expectations. And I understand he has other good albums too, but for me personally, this Yellow Tape 2 album just wasn't for me, man.
Happy to hear that Roach Mafia got their name changed, and I'm also happy to hear that this EP is pretty great. I was initially surprised to hear word of a new Diana Ross album in 2021, but after listening, I'm even more shocked that it turned out this good. It could potentially see a spot on my year-end list.
Now, even though I do listen to country music, don't get it misconstrued. I do listen to, back in the day, I listened to a lot of Florida Georgia Line, and I did listen to other country music, but I have to say, this Chase Wright guy, this album called Intertwined is really good. His singing is on point, the production is good. This dude is a natural born talent, and I really, from what I saw on his Spotify, I think this is like his first major release, and from what I heard from that project, or from this project, it's really good. And this dude has a future in the country music industry because this dude's voice is a killer, and you guys better watch out. Chase Wright, he's coming for you.
I am kind of tired of seeing Big Sean pushed off to the side in regular rap conversations. Like, I never understood why people constantly turn their back on him. I think he's been on a very solid 7 and up road since I Decided, and this EP is no different. Hit Boy's production is great, Big Sean raps well over these heavy, punchy banger beats. It's 6 tracks, it's a great listen. What are the most diverse, appealing, and honestly catchy thing that these guys have released. This was very, very enjoyable.
So getting into Adele's 30 album, I know this is Adele's most anticipated project of this year. I know she was planning on releasing this project earlier sometime last year, but due to COVID, it was delayed and the album got pushed back. And I'm actually have to say that this album is really good, from like the writing, from the production, the vocalization, like especially her voice and how angelic it is. It definitely gives us a vibe of like she went through a lot of like hurt in her life, and also pretty much recently with the whole divorce that she went through, and she put all that pain in her music. And I have to say it is definitely a venting album, and I'm so glad that she released this project, and this project is it's dope.
Just popping in yet again to say some words on the new Adele album 30. I think this one definitely has some of her best songs bar none on here, but I think it also does kind of have some of the more weaker moments in her career. Like, it's not bad at all. In fact, I'd say this album is definitely pretty great, but because of those more lackluster moments, I don't think I can really herald this up on the top of albums of the year. As soon as I saw that this first track was 10 minutes long, I knew this wasn't going to be worth my time. Big shocker, it really wasn't, aside from a few scattered highlights. Rod Stewart is a household name for me and my family, so after finding out that this new album was coming out, I got pretty damn excited to give it a listen. After doing so, I can't say I was huge on it. I liked some of it, most of which I tried to rekindle that old carnal fire that I'm familiar with. But then you get a song like Kookarama Bama, and you just wonder how you got to this point in your life.
Now, for Super Junior's D and E, that also stands for Donghae and Inhyuk. They're the two members of Super Junior, and they've been around the industry for 10 plus years. And this is actually their first full-length album, because before they released EPs. And I'll have to say, like, this album is actually really good. Even though I haven't really been listening to K-pop that much as of lately, when it comes to these veterans in this game, they know how to construct songs and albums, and I like the album very much. The production was interesting, the lyrics was good, of course has like a little bit of mixture of singing and rapping, and it meshes very well. And I like this combination because Super Junior D&E never disappoints with their projects.
It's certainly an ambitious album for Mastodon, but it's also really long, like almost 90 minutes long, and I feel like that runtime almost squanders the impact of this ambition. I love Walk the Moon so much. One of my all-time favorite bands. They didn't miss on Talking Is Hard. What If Nothing had a few hiccups but was still great, and this new album is just another stellar addition to their catalog. I think the ending leg here was a bit weak. The closing track itself was great, but the two tracks before didn't provide the most memorable build-up to that conclusion. But I mean, God, another incredible album from these guys. Alright folks, and that is going to do it for this episode of Review Recall. Again, I want to give a massive thank you to Dante's Analysis for taking the time to record some reviews for me and put them on this channel. It means the world to get to do this collaboration with you, and I hope we can do more going forward. But anyway guys, that is going to do it for this episode. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you liked what you see, and go follow my social medias in the link in the description, and go support Dante's Analysis as well. Links to his YouTube and his Instagram feed will also be in the description. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.